What we're doing today is going to be something pretty spectacular.
Shall we begin?
This is Infinite Aviators, sharing aviation experiences, interviewing great aviators, and also giving hints and tips. Today we're doing formation flying, and joining me is Joel from Red Baron. Welcome, Joel.
Hey, Amir.
So we're going to go formation flying. I've got to thank you for actually taking me up. I'm going to be the sixth plane,
Right.
and I'm going to be following the Formation 5. Tell us about what it takes to be flying in formation.
Okay, well firstly, most people in light aircraft don't get exposed to big formations. So what we're doing today is going to be something pretty spectacular. We're going to have 6 aircraft in the air at one time, all flying in close formation. So what you'll expect to see during this is some fairly high precision flying.
Yeah.
Okay. During the takeoff phase, we'll split the formation into 2 groups so that we can share the runway all at the same time.
Yeah.
To get 6 aeroplanes on the runway in one go in an airport like Bankstown is a bit harder than trying to get 2 sets of 3. So we split the formation into 2 sets of 3 to make it a bit more manageable for takeoff.
Yeah.
We're then going to join 2 other aircraft onto the lead formation of 3, and that'll give us our finger 5 formation. So we'll have 1 at the front and then 2 off each wing behind it. And then your aircraft, as you mentioned, is going to be the 6th, and every now and then I'm sure you'll come in close to get some nice footage, and then you'll just follow around the formation. You'll still be part of the formation, but you won't be in the close group of the formation for most of the flight.
Red Baron 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. City Centre, Red Baron formation, aka Zulu X-Ray Yankee and Company, 6 aircraft departed Bankstown, maintaining 1,500, request clearance to the bridge via West Road.
So I got to mention, I've never actually done any form of formation flying at all. So I'm actually flying with someone who is flying the plane. I'm not actually flying myself. So I'm really excited to be part of this. But tell us about the leading and the following and who leads and etc.
Okay, so most people think the leader's got it easy because they're not having to fly on the wing. It's actually almost the other way around. Being the wingman can sometimes be the easy job, and being the leader is the hard job, because the leader's got to think about the whole formation while they're flying. So when there's only 2 aircraft, it can be a little bit more relaxed because you're only worried about one other aeroplane and what's going to happen when you do something. Right? The whole thing about being a good leader is anticipation and being ahead of the aeroplane, so that when you have to maneuver the aircraft, there's no sudden movements, right? Because when you think about it, the guy on the wing has to follow your lead. So if you do a sudden turn to the left, well, all of a sudden the wingman might not be able to keep up and you'll break apart the formation. Worse still is if you do a sudden turn towards the wingman, if they're not expecting it, then you potentially can have a collision. So being the leader means you really got to think about what's coming up next and how to plan it so that you can give the formation plenty of time to react. So in a situation where we've got 5 aircraft, right, we're going to have aircraft on both sides of the leader. Either way, if the leader does anything sudden or has to do something radical, it potentially is a risky thing in either direction.
So tell me something, for people to be flying in formation, do the pilots really got to know each other and have been flying in formation for a while? Do they need that experience, or can you just get in a plane and up you go?
I'll tell you one thing, the more you fly with someone in formation, the easier it becomes, because you start to get a feel for their flying style. But in reality, you can take 2 pilots who have never flown together and put them in separate aeroplanes and fly formation. The trick to making it simple and easy is effective briefing and the correct standard operating procedures, right? So if everyone's on the same page and they know what to expect and they know what to do, and prior to any formation flight, you want to brief it so that everyone knows what's going to happen in the air.
Yeah.
You also want to know who's going to be positioned where and what's expected of them, and you know, what aircraft they'll be flying. Once all of that detail is discussed in a briefing and then it's implemented in the aeroplane, it shouldn't really matter if you've got experience flying with that person or not. What makes a difference is the experience of each person flying, whether they've got formation flying experience or whether they're new to formation flying and have less experience.
So Joel, tell me about any emergency procedures. I mean, is it often that you guys almost touch wings, and what procedures are there in place?
Okay, firstly, it doesn't happen very often, and no, we don't often touch wings or nearly touch wings. But you have to account for something that might go wrong. So during the pre-flight briefing, we discuss what we're going to do. It's very rare that formations have collisions, and mid-airs tend to happen because people don't know that there are other aircraft around. So what we discuss during a formation briefing is if there is a collision, right, we want to separate the aeroplanes, so we just take headings, different headings. Okay, we get the aircraft away from each other. We then want to assess our controllability, so we want to make sure that the aeroplane's flying correctly and in the correct sense, and you know, if it was a serious collision, then you might find that you have some issues with maintaining straight and level
But do some planes like the right brake right and the left side brake left? Is that the?
Yep. Generally the standard is you turn on headings away from each other. So if one's on the left and one's on the right, you'll turn away and you give yourself about a 30-degree heading difference and fly away.
So tell me about the training that's involved, because I myself would particularly be interested in actually getting trained up in doing formation flying. What's involved and how difficult is it? So
the training's, well, you could say straightforward, okay? Essentially you need a formation partner, and it's best to work with the same person throughout the course so that, you know, you get a bit of continuity there, you're both at the same level. Then essentially you learn to fly next to each other first, and maintain station is what we call it. So when the aircraft is behind and to the side of the other aircraft, we call that echelon. Right, it's a French word, I believe. So when you learn to fly an echelon first, and you learn to do turns away and turns towards, okay, then we'll put you in line astern and teach you how to fly behind the other aeroplane. And they're the basics. Once you've mastered that, then we can start to teach you how to take off and land in formation.
So that's a third phase?
That's another phase. And you'll learn all of these things as both the wingman and the leader. Because you can't just learn one or the other. Right? Because essentially your partner's got to learn how to do it as well. So you're going to take turns at being the wingman and the leader. Okay? Once you've learned to take off and land, and you can keep station in either echelon right, left or line astern, then you're pretty much formation qualified. After that, we can teach you some other fancy things which are pretty good fun, which are essentially belly turns, where you both roll on the same plane. You only do this when you're flying away from the when the leader's flying away from the wingman. So you roll on the same plane, and the wingman parks themselves pretty much underneath the other aeroplane, but in the turn. Okay? And then when you roll out, you come out the plane. So that's a fun one to learn. And in the past, we've also taught tail chasing, which is a little bit like formation aerobatics. It's not quite as advanced as that, but where you learn to follow each other around at a safe distance, but doing a bit more exciting maneuvers than just flying and turning.
Would you do a loop that way as well, or not?
You can do loops that way, yes, and depending on the skill of the student, will depend on whether we can take it that far.
So I guess the next level of formation flying is formation aerobatics, right?
That's taking it to a whole nother level.
Yeah. And you've done lots of hours in formation yourself, and you teach it, and
hundreds, if not thousands, of hours in formation. I love flying formation.
Yeah.
The thing about formation flying as well that you've got to understand is that it hones your skills beyond belief, right? Because not only do you have to fly accurately as the leader, you have to fly super accurately as the leader, otherwise your wingman's all over the shop, and it looks really bad. So it improves your standard flying skills extremely, and then as you when you become the wingman, it really sharpens up your stick and rudder skills, because you now have to concentrate not on flying based on looking out at the world or the instruments, but only on looking at another aeroplane. So your flying becomes a lot more instinctive, and you start to use the power of the stick with a lot more instinct rather than, you know, mental thought.
So I don't know if this is a stupid question, but can you fly in formation in clouds, or is it always visual?
Yeah, well, believe it or not, you can. When you're in cloud, it's like being in fog. So as you're driving a car in fog, you can see the car in front of you, you know, 20, 30 metres away. But we're that close when we're flying. So the military actually fly in formation in cloud, and the leader will be responsible for bringing the formation through the instrument approach.
Well, that's been really informative. Joel from Red Baron, thanks for being part of the show, and thanks again. Pleasure. You've got a movie made about you, you've written books, you inspire people from stage, you've been a professional athlete, and you fly planes.
Upside down.